Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. My name is Karolina Gutmostowa, and I'm a legal officer here at IHI. And I'm here this afternoon with my colleague Gael, and we are going to speak about the IHI contributing partners, the who, why, what, and how of the Contributing Partners program. So just before we start, I wanted to let you know that we are recording this session, and this session will be published on our website, I think tomorrow at the latest. There will be a lot of time for questions after this presentation. So if you would like to ask a question, if something comes up during the time when Gael and I are presenting, please use the chat function. So what are we going to look at today? So first we will look into who. So basically who may and who may not become a contributing partner to our program. Then we will look into why. What are the benefits of becoming a contributing partner? After that, Gael will take over and she will focus on what can and what cannot be brought into a project by a contributing partner. And then it's going to be back with me, and I will explain to you the application process in single stage calls and also in the two-stage calls. And we will look briefly into the assessment of the applications by the IHI governing board. And indeed, if there are any questions, you can start using the chat already now. Okay, so let's look into the who. So who may become a contributing partner? The purpose of the Contributing Partner Program is to basically open up our partnerships for stakeholders who may want to be involved in IHI and contribute to the achievement of our objectives, but basically do not want to become a full member or cannot become a full member. Contributing partners at IHI invest their own resources. This can be the time of the researcher, so basically labor. This can be access to laboratories. It can be also data. But also we welcome contributions in form of cash to the specific projects. And that can be projects in multiple, not only one project, but we will look into that later. The contributions of contributing partners work in a very similar way to the contributions from our private members. We welcome both public and private organizations and companies of very different sorts to join the Contributing Partner Program. But what is necessary is that the involvement with IHI supports a very specific area of research. As many of you might be aware, we are a public-private partnership. Therefore, it's very important for a potential applicant that this aspect is also considered. You may want to have a look at our strategic research and innovation agenda. You have the link here on the slide. Therefore, before participating in one of our projects, you should consider your strategic engagement, and more specifically, you should also consider various obligations which are resulting from participating in a consortium that is implementing a project of IHI. So now let's look into more specifically who may become a contributing partner at IHI in accordance with our legal basis. This can be any country, international organization, or legal entity. There needs to be an application coming from such entity. And in this application, there is a need to specify how are you planning to contribute to our objectives in a specific area of research. It is necessary for the applicant contributing partner to accept our legal framework, and such letter of application is submitted to our program office. And afterwards, the application is assessed by the JU governing board and eventually accepted if the governing board makes such a decision. There are a number of categories of entities that, based on our legal basis, cannot apply to become a contributing partner. First of all, you cannot apply to become our contributing partner if you are already our private member. That is a member of COSIR, a member of FPA, including Vaccines Europe, a member of Europa Bio, or a member of MedTech Europe. This sort of prohibition also extends to any entity that is a constituent or affiliated entity of any of our private members, but also to entities who might be affiliated to our private members via some regional national organization. This might sound a little bit mysterious. There's obviously a way to check it. On our website, you will find links to the websites of our private members. And on those websites, there's a list of all kinds of corporate members, national associations, and other entities that constitute members of our private members. So here you might already ask, what happens if actually my company or my organization is affiliated in any way to a private member of IHI? Does it mean that I'm not allowed to participate in a project? Well, obviously, no. You are still welcome to participate in a project, but in such case, you have to first of all contact the private member and confirm with them that indeed you are in such status of an affiliated or constituent entity, and then you might be allowed to join the project on the side of the private members. There are some other limitations as well to whom can become a contributing partner in IHI. So first of all, entities who would like to bring a contribution that is not eligible according to the rules of Horizon Europe, those contributions are not eligible as such, therefore they may not become private members. My colleague Gael will talk about the contributions in detail just in a few minutes. Also, there is a category of entities that are actually not in the position to meet the obligations of the grant agreement. Specifically, that means that they do not have the resources or the operational capacity to actually provide the envisaged contributions to the project, and such entities may be rejected by the governing board. But we will also look into that a little bit more later. Now let's have a quick look at why should I actually become a contributing partner to IHI? What's the benefit in that for me? So as I mentioned already, we are a cross-sectorial public-private partnership, and becoming a contributing partner gives you an opportunity to contribute to our work on a very strategic level. So if you become a contributing partner, you will be able to leverage your resources and make your resources stretch further while sharing risks with the other partners in the project. This also gives you an opportunity to influence research that we do from the very start, from the very earliest stages of the project. Becoming a contributing partner is also a great way to network. It's a networking opportunity within our wider health innovation community here at IHI. And maybe lastly, it will also allow you to benefit from the effects of scale. So basically increase your chances of having a real impact. For those of you who are more familiar with IHI, you probably know that we have two types of calls of proposals, single stage calls and two-stage calls. The structure of those calls is quite different, and also the role of contributing partners in those two types of calls is also different. In single stage calls, we have wide topics that are not limited to a specific one single product or technology or solution that is expected to come from a project. Applicant consortia in single stage calls are composed of industry partners, which may include private members and contributing partners, and also public partners, so also partners coming from academia, just like in any other Horizon Europe call. In those single stage calls, we have the obligation of, the consortia basically have the obligation of proposing a budget that includes at least 45% of in-kind cash contributions, which are coming from private members and or contributing partners. It can be either or. So just to give you a quick example, let's say that the total budget proposed is 10 million euros, then such contribution coming from private members and contributing partners or contributing partners will amount to at least 4.5 million euros. In two-stage calls, there are two stages of such calls, and in the first stage of a two-stage call, the topics and budgets are determined by pre-identified industry consortium members, which also may include contributing partners who are listed in a topic text. Applicant consortia of beneficiaries requesting funding submit a short proposal at the first stage of a two-stage call. The successful applicant consortium joins with the pre-identified consortium in the second stage of a two-stage call. And in those two-stage calls, the pre-identified industry consortium members, which also include contributing partners, are not eligible for funding. More information on the particularities of our calls can be found in a guide for applicants, which is available on our website. And you will also have a list of useful links at the end of this presentation. So now let me hand over to Gael, who will look at the what element.
Good afternoon, everyone. So let me share my screen. There we go. Okay, it's clear. So I need to present to
Just a second, we are fixing this right now. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me now? I wait my colleagues to confirm. Yes. So sorry for this technical issue. So as I said, there is an echo. Before explaining you the different types of contributions that can be brought by contributing partners, I wanted to give you an overview of an IHI proposal budget. So basically the different types of costs in your proposal, they can be incurred by different types of legal entities. So first of all, those costs can be incurred by entities that are requesting IHI funding only. So those are like SMEs, non-profit organizations, academics, and so on. And so we expect those entities to have their costs fully reimbursed and to be covered by public funds mainly. So the cash we receive from the European Commission. The costs of your proposal, they can also be incurred by entities that are not requesting IHI funding, but who are contributing in kind or cash or both to the projects. So those entities are private members and or contributing partners. So those costs are not reimbursed by IHI and are covered by the private fund, so by those entities that are incurring those costs. And then there is a third type of participants, specifically in single stage calls. We call them the hybrid participants because they can both contribute in kind and or cash and also request IHI funding. And so those entities are also private members and or contributing partners. And so as you can see from these slides, there is this co-funding principle. So the fact that funds are coming from both public and private sides, and that's typical to a public-private partnership like IHI. And then besides the eligible costs of an IHI proposal, you also have IKA, which means in-kind contribution for additional activities. So those are not project eligible costs, but you will see later on that they are also quite important for an IHI proposal. However, they can only be contributed by private members and not by contributing partners. So it's in a way not fully relevant for you today, since this webinar is focusing only on contributing partners. But however, I thought it was important to present you this full picture, because together, collectively, all private members and contributing partners in an IHI proposal with their contribution, so by bringing ICOP, financial contribution, IKA, or only one of those types of contribution, together they have the responsibility to bring at least 45% of the action's eligible costs and costs for additional activities, if there are any. And so that's why I wanted to show you this overall picture, because there is this criteria of the 45% contribution, which is actually an eligibility threshold, meaning that if it is not reached collectively by the different private members and contributing partners in your proposal, the proposal will be considered as not eligible and will therefore not be evaluated. So it's like really crucial. And so please try to keep in mind this formula that you can see on the screen. And if it seems a bit complex, don't worry, because there is the annex on budget that will automatically calculate that threshold, and so you will be able to see automatically if your proposal reaches this eligibility threshold or not whenever you prepare your budget. So this 45% threshold is key, as I said, and so that's why the coordinator of the proposal must submit a declaration, which is an annex to the proposal, to confirm that the required 45% contribution will be provided. As I said earlier, this 45% contribution can be reached with only one or two types of the different types of contribution. So, for instance, only with ICOP. And this threshold of 45% should also be maintained during the whole project implementation. So a prudent approach actually that IHI recommends strongly is to aim for 50% and not 45%. 45% is like the legal minimum. What we recommend is try to aim for 50%, so that just in case you have, for instance, a private member leaving the consortium during the project implementation, you don't have an issue with this 45%, which is not reached anymore. You ensure that it is maintained this way. So that was a brief introduction. Now, what are the different types of contributions that you can bring as a contributing partner into an IHI proposal? So you can bring ICOP, financial contribution, but not IKAA. As I said, contrary to the private members who can bring actually those three types of contribution. But okay, we do not focus on this today. So I will explain a bit further now what is ICOP and what is financial contribution. ICOP means in-kind contribution for operational activities. And so it consists of the eligible costs that you will incur in implementing the project tasks. Project tasks that are therefore identified as such in the description of the action of your proposal. And so we insist on the eligible costs, because only eligible cost can actually be considered ICOP. So it's really important that you ensure that all the costs you plan to incur in the proposal, that those costs comply with the eligibility conditions of Horizon Europe. And so what are those eligibility conditions? They are actually specified in the Article 6.1 and 6.2 of the Model Grant Agreement. And so I will explain you briefly what they are in general terms. So for your cost to be eligible, they must be actual, so real. They cannot be estimated or budgeted. They really have to be real. They must be also incurred during the project implementation, meaning between the start date and the end date of the project. There are few exceptions. They also have to be connected to the action as it is explained in the description of the action of your proposal, and they must be necessary for the implementation of that action. They must be foreseen in the estimated budgets. They should be reasonable and justified, as well as identifiable and verifiable, because they can be auditable. There is actually the requirement to provide a certification of costs by an external and independent auditor at the end of the project in case you reach a certain threshold. So the threshold is 430,000 euro, either in terms of contribution or if you request IHI funding in terms of IHI requested funding. But in those two cases, you will be requested to provide an audit report at the end of the project to certify your costs. And so as a result, it's really important that your cost can be verified by the auditor. So the cost, they should also be incurred by the contributing partner and recorded in its accounts. They should be in line with the usual cost accounting practices of the contributing partner, in line as well with the accounting standards of the country where your entity is established, and as well comply with the applicable national law on taxes, labor, and social security. So this is to give you a bit of an overview, but you can have more details on those eligibility conditions in the annotated version of the model grant agreement. I will provide you the link later on. Some examples of costs that are not eligible, for instance, software license fees. So in case the contributing partner has developed a software and plans license fees to valorize the use of that software by the consortium, this is actually not a cost. There are no costs incurred by the contributing partner. In this case, it's more a missed business opportunity, so to say, since the software is put at the disposal of the consortium for free. So, of course, it has a value, but it has no cost as such recorded in the accounts of the company during the project implementation, so it cannot be considered as an eligible cost. However, if the contributing partner is paying license fees to use some softwares, that's considered as an eligible cost, because the cost is really like incurred by the entity during the project implementation, and that cost is recorded in its accounts. Another practical example is regarding data. So in case you have pre-existing data, so prior to the start of the project, you share those data with the consortium. Of course, it does represent a scientific value. However, there is no cost related to those data recorded in the accounts of the contributing partner during the project implementation, because the data already exists. So this is not an eligible cost. However, if you need to make any action with those data during the project implementation, that can be considered as an eligible cost, like cost for generating data, harmonizing them, transforming or transferring them. That's a cost that is considered eligible. So when incurring costs, you will have different types of costs, of course. You may have a personal cost for your employees or for an in-house consultant, or if you get personnel from a third party. So we call it a seconded personnel, subcontracting purchase cost, and so on. Different types of costs. So I'll go through those different cost categories briefly to give you a bit of an overview. So the personal cost, if I take the most common case, the cost for your employees, you would have two options to calculate your personal cost. Either you would use the actual costs using the method of Horizon Europe, which is to multiply the daily rate for your employee by the amount of days that have been worked on the action. And that daily rate, you would get it by dividing the actual annual personal cost for the person by 215 days, which is the equivalent for a person working full-time. So of course you need to work with pro rata if the person is not working full-time. And another option is to use average personal costs. So that's a unit cost. And this option should be used only if it's your usual cost accounting practices. So for instance, if you calculate average FTE rates for your personnel. So as I said, in the annotated model grant agreement, you have many concrete examples. It's basically the model grant agreement, but with annotations, as it said. And so I would recommend you to have a look at this version because it's quite concrete. It makes it more concrete and easier to understand those different rules. And among others, you can find some examples on the different calculation methods for your personal costs. One last point regarding the personal cost, it's regarding the record, the document that you need to keep. It's quite key whether option you choose to keep records of the days that have been worked on the project. So either you can keep a declaration that is signed every month by the person working on the project and his or her supervisor, or you could have alternative solution if you have another reliable time record system in place. Subcontracting cost now. So that's when the contributing partner needs to contract a third party to work on some project tasks. So when I say third party, I mean any entity that is outside the consortium. In this case, you have you need to have a contractual link between the subcontractor and the contributing partner, and it is based on business conditions because it always includes some profit margin for the subcontractor. The selection of the subcontractor is really key. It needs to you need to follow your usual practice in terms of selection of subcontractor. You need to ensure also a best value for money or the lowest price if it's appropriate, and also that the selection process is transparent and with no conflict of interest. And again, a recommendation regarding the keeping of records. Please make sure you just keep the contract with your subcontractor, the invoice as well, and in case you have any documentation justifying the way the subcontractor was selected, it's also very good to keep it, just in case whenever you need to be audited, you have the necessary documentation to show to the auditors. Purchase cost, that's for cost of travel, accommodation, and subsistence. It needs to be in line with your internal travel policy if you have any. To give you a simple example, if you are used to travel in second class, the idea is that you continue following this usual practice and that you don't travel in first class just for an IHI project. So that's just a very simple example to explain what is the internal travel usual travel policy. You can also include in your purchase cost the cost for equipment that you would need for working on the project. Regarding the equipment, you can only charge the depreciation cost and only the part that has been used for the project. If also you need to contract other parties to buy some other goods or works or services, if it's necessary to implement the project, you can also go and include in this cost category those costs. But again, Article 6.2c in the model grant agreement will give you much more detail than I do. So I would recommend that you go and have a look at the model grant agreement. Regarding the indirect cost, it's a fixed flat rate that is calculated automatically as 25% of the direct costs, excluding the subcontracting costs. And so, as I said, it's automatically calculated and for all beneficiaries that are signing the grant agreement. And so since it's automatic, it's important to not include any indirect cost in the other cost categories, obviously, because otherwise there would be some double counting of costs. So how to calculate the ICOP concretely? In single stage calls, you may have contributing partners requesting IHI funding if they are eligible. So in case, if it is the case, then ICOP would be equal to the total eligible cost minus the requested IHI funding, if any, because you may have also cases where, of course, the contributing partner is only contributing and therefore there is no requested IHI funding. And in that case, it would be just like in two-stage calls, ICOP would be equal to the total eligible costs. In two-stage call, this is what we expect because the contributing partner normally is not eligible to receiving any IHI funding since it is normally pre-identified in the call topic text. So in ICOP, we can have EU ICOP and non-EU ICOP. What do we mean by non-EU ICOP? It's actually the part of the costs that are incurred outside the EU or outside one of the associated countries to Horizon Europe. So you have here the list of the associated countries to Horizon Europe. There are 17 countries so far, and 2 countries for which there are still ongoing negotiations, Morocco and UK. And so practically, in case you have some costs that are incurred in the US or in Switzerland, just to give you 2 examples, this will be considered as non-EU ICOP, since those 2 countries are not part of the EU and not part of the associated countries. If you have costs incurred in the UK, it will be considered non-EU ICOP, at least before 2024. And then after 2024, in case the association agreement is signed, then it will be considered as EU ICOP. And the criteria we are using to identify whether it is ICOP or not ICOP, it's where the activities are carried out. So we do not take into account where the company is established, meaning that if you are based in the US and you perform some activities in Germany, because maybe you need to subcontract some work in Germany, then those tasks, the cost for those tasks, that are carried out in Germany will be considered as EU ICOP, and the other way around, in case you are based in Germany, but you do have some activities that are carried out for the project in the US, then this will be considered as non-EU ICOP. Regarding the non-EU ICOP, there are also some limitations. It's 20% at program level, so meaning for all IHI projects together. And at project level, there were no limitation as such for call 1 to 4. And for call 5, there is a limit set to maximum 30%. So that was it for ICOP, and now I'm moving to the second type of contribution that you can bring as a contributing partner, which is the financial contributions. So this is basically cash that you would pay to another beneficiary of the project in order to support a part or the totality of its project eligible costs. This will count for the 45% threshold only if the recipient of that financial contribution is eligible for receiving funding, and also only to cover eligible costs. So again, those eligibility conditions that I was referring before are quite key. And also this financial contribution should not cover costs that are actually already reimbursed by IHI. No double funding is allowed, of course. So you need to have for this a legal agreement between the 2 parties, so between the beneficiary who will be the recipient of your financial contribution and yourself. It can be a separate legal agreement, or it can be just specified in the description of the action of your proposal. And in your proposal, you have indeed a section on financial contribution where you need to specify who is providing the financial contribution. So it can be a private member or a contributing partner, who is the recipient of that financial contribution and to perform what actions. As well, the financial contribution should be specified in the estimated budget, both on the side of the beneficiary who will be receiving that financial contribution and on the side of the contributing partner who will be paying that financial contribution. So in the end, you can calculate your total contribution. So by summing up the different costs you are planning to incur in the proposal by implementing the project tasks, so the personnel cost, the subcontracting cost, and so on. When you sum this, then you deduct the IHI requested funding, if any, and you will get your ICOP, which will include or not some non-EU ICOP. And then to your ICOP, you can add up the financial contribution if you plan any. And the sum of those two contribution types will give you your total contribution. And the idea is to include this information in the financial table that is in your contributing partner application letter. I think Carolina will explain this in a few minutes as part of the application process for becoming a contributing partner. Carolina, up to you.
Thank you very much, Gail. Let's see if the gods of WebEx are on my side today. Can you hear me? Anyone from participants, can you hear me? Yes, I see Monica. Thank you, Monica. Okay, I will take control of the slides again. Thank you for bearing with us. Not always easy. Okay, so here we go. We are going to look now at the how. So basically how to apply to become a contributing partner. I will start with single stage calls, and I will guide you through the application process from the moment of application to actual approval. So okay, so let's start. In single stage calls, we have a few steps that a potential applicant contributing partner needs to take in order to prepare their application. So as a first step, I would advise everyone to check again if you are not affiliated to our private member. This is something that I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, and this is very important. Secondly, you need to obviously check whether your contribution, which you plan to bring into the project, is in line with everything that was explained in detail by Gael. So basically, whether it's in line with the Horizon Europe rules. As a second step, I would advise you to read the Guide for Contributing Partners, which is available on our website. This is a document that we created to help you, to guide you through the process, but also explain how it actually works in practice to be a contributing partner. There's a lot of useful information in the guide, including the deadline for your application. As a third step, please download the most recent template from our website to fill in. We have two templates there. One is for single stage calls. The other one is for two-stage calls. They are different, so please make sure you download the right template. But also, please note that we do update those templates on a regular basis. So if you have already applied with them for the past, applied with us for the past calls, now for the upcoming call 5, you need to download the new template because we have a new one. So let's look at the actual template of the application letter in single stage calls. So as I mentioned, we update those templates on regular basis, and actually this week we have published a completely new version. This letter has 4 parts, which will help you describe not only yourself, your organization, but also your contributions, what you want to bring to the project. All of those parts are equally important, and all of those parts are compulsory. It is essential that we get all the information that is requested, because this will allow the governing board to actually assess your application. So the first part of the template talks about you, the applicant contributing partner. Here you need to enter your legal details, your PIC number, the details of your organization, also the mission and the objectives of your organization. In the second part, you will mention the contribution to the objectives of IHI. So this is also something that I mentioned in the beginning. We would like to know what you want to bring to contribute to the strategic objectives of our partnership, but also to the topic you apply for. The third part of the template consists of this very nice financial table prepared by Gael and our financial colleagues. This table will be extremely helpful for us to see what do you actually want to bring to the project, what are the different categories of costs that are included in your contribution. Therefore, it is essential that you fill in this table and use all the guidance that is included in this table as well. The fourth part of this letter is, I would say, more legalistic. It's your declarations. So here again, we would like you to confirm that you accept the legal framework of IHI, including the model grant agreement, and also to confirm that you are actually able to meet the commitments related to becoming a contributing partner. As mentioned, all of the parts of those letters are compulsory. So this might seem like a lot, but we've also prepared a checklist that will help guide you through this letter and help you make sure that you included the information which is relevant for us. So you can download the checklist also from our website. And the checklist is designed in the same way as the letter. So it's basically also divided in 4 parts. And if you follow the structure of the checklist, it will, I hope, it will help you write your letter. So before you submit your letter to IHI, please make sure that all the items on this checklist are ticked as done. So the first step after you have already prepared your letter, you double checked it together with the checklist. This is a step that is optional, but is highly recommended. We invite you to send an email to the IHI program office with the draft of your application, and we will have a look at it. Basically, I would suggest that you send it in Word, because then we can send you some comments in track changes, and our review is basically limited only to the compulsory elements of the checklist, but we do not assess the merits of your application. So the decision as to whether to accept you as a contributing partner or whether to reject your application, this is purely with the IHI-JU governing board, and the program office has no influence over such decision. But we would like to help you send a complete application. Therefore, we offer this possibility to send us your application in a draft form for review. I would like to stress that it's important to, if you want us to help you, it's important to send us your application well ahead of the submission deadline. Please be aware that in the last days before the call deadline, we might be receiving quite a few of those application letters, and we might not be able to review all of them. We need a little bit of time to do it as well. So the final step is step number 6, which is basically finalizing your application. Here, we would suggest that you take into account our comments, the feedback you've received from the IHI program office. And after that, you finalize your letter, you sign it, and you send it to us via deadline before, well, before the deadline, ideally. Also by email. The IHI office will only submit the applications for contributing partners in the proposals that were selected for funding. So that basically means that if your proposal was not selected for funding in a particular call, your application will not go to the will not go to the governing board. What does it mean? Does it mean that you cannot apply anymore? No, actually, no. You are very welcome to apply again for a different call with as a member of a different consortium. But if in this particular call your proposal is not selected for funding, then your application basically stays with us. So you might ask, what is the deadline for submission of the applications? I already mentioned this is the deadline for submission of proposals. So, for example, for call 5, which is coming in January, the deadline is the 16th of January. This is the deadline for the single stage call 5. So this is the last moment when we can receive your application for a contributing partner. If you want to apply for this, call. What is also important is that we receive a final application. So what does it mean, a final application? So a final application is an application that, first of all, follows our templates, and therefore it clearly states what is the amount and the scope of your contribution. Secondly, it's an application that bears a blue ink signature or a valid electronic signature of a person who is actually authorized to represent the applying legal entity. You might ask, what is a blue ink signature? Does it need to be of a blue color? Well, obviously it doesn't need to be blue. Blue ink signature just means it's a handwritten signature. It can be also in green, but it needs to be a handwritten signature of the legal representative. That also means it cannot be a scanned signature, it cannot be a copy of a signature, unless obviously you are using a valid electronic signature. Such valid electronic signature is also acceptable, and in such case, you don't need to sign it on paper. For the application to be considered a final application, the contribution that you would like to bring to the project also may not be in any way provisional or conditional. Therefore, I would suggest to avoid language like we will provide a contribution provided that some other partners in the projects provide something else. This would actually make your contribution provisional and conditional, and in such language is not recommended for the contributing partner application letter. Further, for the application to be final, we need to see that the contribution which is included in the letter is in accordance with Article 6 of the Horizon Europe Model Grant Agreement. So these are all the elements which Gail described in detail. Further, your letter should include a confirmation that the candidate contributing partner is not affiliated to an IHI-JU member, or neither if it's its constituent or affiliated entity. I'm aware that I'm repeating myself, but this is very important because our legal basis simply exclude entities who are affiliated to our private members to join the project as contributing partners. And as I mentioned already, those entities should contact the private member and see whether they can join on the side of the private members. So in case you submit a letter within the deadline which bears all of those elements. This letter will be considered, basically this contribution will be considered when my colleagues will be checking the 45% eligibility threshold at the proposal level. So what happens if your letter is late? Well, then it's not going to be considered for this eligibility check. So just for you to remember that if the letter is submitted after the deadline for the submission of proposals, in case of the upcoming call 5, that is the 16th of January, such contribution from a contributing partner will not be counted towards satisfying the 45 in-kind eligibility criterion for that proposal in question. So here it's a little bit of a summary of what we've just said so far. Just some very common mistakes that we would like you to avoid when applying to become a contributing partner in a single stage call. Basically, make sure that your contribution is eligible. Make sure that your organization is not affiliated to our private member. Be aware also of cases when there is a mismatch between what you write in your application letter and the information that is included in the proposal itself. Please follow the template of the letter to make sure that the key information is not missing. Please also make sure that the letter is signed by someone who is legally authorized to represent your company, and avoid any type of scanned digital signatures that are not actual handwritten signatures, and make sure that your letter is not sent to us after the deadline. You might also want to consider sending the letter for the review of the program office. In such case, please do not send it one day before the deadline, because then simply we will not be able to look at it. So do not wait until the last day. Okay, now I'm going to guide you a little bit through the application process of becoming a contributing partner in two-stage calls. As already mentioned, two-stage calls are different in nature, as they include a pre-identified industry consortium. Such pre-identified industry consortium is composed of industry partners from different healthcare sectors who are affiliated with the private members of IHIGU. Such industry consortium may also include contributing partners, and in this case, those contributing partners support a particular IHI topic and not a particular proposal. Thank you. I just saw a comment from one of the participants. I hope that this information is useful. Thank you. In the case of two-stage calls, the call topic may also specify the contributing partners. In such case, the call topic includes the name of the contributing partner, the indicative budget, and the description of the in-kind and the financial contribution. So if a contributing partner is interested in joining two-stage call and would like to have their contribution matched by IHI, then we require such applicant contributing partner to provide their application letter before the finalization of the call text in order to be included in such call text. And then if this happens, IHIGU may decide to match such contribution. It is also possible that a contributing partner joins the pre-identified industry consortium after the call topic text has been published. In such case, the fact of joining should be agreed with the pre-identified industry consortium, and at that point, IHI cannot match the contribution anymore because, well, this is simply too late. Let's look very quickly at the steps needed for preparing your contributing partner application letter in two-stage calls. The steps here are very similar. So first of all, obviously, do your checks. Make sure that you are not a member of a private member. Make sure that your contribution is eligible. As a second stage, we invite you to read the section on contributing partners in two-stage calls in our guide for CPs. In the third stage, please download the most recent template of the two-stage application letter. This letter is different from the letter for the single stage. The biggest difference is that it includes additional declarations from the applicant contributing partner on confidentiality that is required for the preparation of the pre-identified consortium and preparation of the call topic. As the fourth step, which is optional but obviously recommended, please send the letter to the IHI program office via email. We invite you to send a Word version so we can enter some comments if necessary. In the fifth step, please finalize your letter, take our feedback into account if you ask for it, and then send us the letter within the deadline if you would like to have your contribution matched. All right, so what happens next? After the applications have been submitted, and as I already mentioned in single stage calls, if your proposal was selected for funding, and in the two-stage calls if you are a member of the pre-identified industry consortium, we will send your application to the IHI governing board. The IHI governing board is fully independent in their assessment of the application of the contributing partners. The IHI program office has no interference, no influence over this process. The governing board will look into the strategic relevance of such contributing partner joining IHI. So the first criterion is whether the involvement of such contributing partners supports the achievements of the IHI objectives. Here, we invite you to have a look at our strategic research and innovation agenda, which is published on our website. And this will give you a little bit more idea about what are our objectives. Secondly, the governing board will also take into consideration the demonstrated relevance and the potential added value of the proposed contribution to the achievement of those objectives and also to the achievement of the objectives of the particular project. At this stage, it is also important that the contribution is eligible in the meaning of the model grant agreement, so the governing board will also look into that. Further, the governing board is free to assess on case-by-case basis other aspects which can be considered. For example, financial operational capacity of the applicant contributing partners, impact of the proposed contribution on the program level non-EU cap, which is described in our legal basis, that is the Single Basic Act. Following the assessment of the application, the governing board is free to accept or reject the application. You may ask whether there is some sort of limitation of how many times you can apply, to what you can apply. Basically, there is no limitation in how many applications you can prepare and send to us, but please be aware that even if you are already an accepted contributing partner for, let's say, call 3, if you would like to join as a contributing partner in call 5, you still need to apply again, because each application is call and topic and project specific, and each application is assessed separately by the governing board. So just one quick slide before we move to the questions. What happens after? So once you're accepted by the governing board as a contributing partner, you might ask what happens then? Well, then you join the project and you join the grant agreement. But there are different types of participation in the project that the contributing partner may may take. It is possible that a contributing partner joins as a full beneficiary, and in that case, they sign the grant agreement and they also sign the consortium agreement. It is also possible that a contributing partner joins as an affiliated entity, and in this case, they do not sign the grant agreement, but they are identified within such grant agreement, and they still need to sign the consortium agreement. It is also possible that a contributing partner joins the project as an associated partner, and in this case, again, they do not need to sign the grant agreement. They will be identified in the grant agreement, and they need to sign the consortium agreement. We explain in a lot of detail all of those different options in the guide for contributing partners. So I invite you to have a look into that section of the guide and just get familiar with how it works in practice. So here we have a couple of points to remember, as this is the last slide of our presentation before we move to questions. Some few things to remember. So if you would like to become a contributing partner, please consider your strategic relevance to IHI. So see what could be the added value of your proposed contribution to the achievement of our objectives and how you can demonstrate this relevance. Please make sure that your costs are eligible. If you're applying in a single stage call, you should submit the application to IHI before the call submission deadline. Otherwise, your contribution will not be considered for checking the threshold at the proposal eligibility. Make sure that you are not a private member. And please read our guide on contributing partners. We hope you find it clear and useful. It contains a lot of important information. When preparing your template letter, please make sure that you use the most recent template and also have a look at our checklist on the website. And if you have any questions about what we've presented today, you are very welcome to send us an email to the info desk, and we will definitely reply to it, and we will provide you with advice. So here we have some useful documents that you can use after you leave this webinar. And now let's have a look at the questions. I'm going to open the chat. I'm going to open the chat if WebEx allows me. All right. So I think we have quite a few questions. Thank you very much for all the questions. So maybe let's start from the top. I think there was a couple of questions for Gael. I'm just looking through the chat. So first, we have a question here. I think it's a question for Gael. The 45 contribution, is it valid for both single and two-stage calls? I guess the reasoning behind the question is whether the obligation of providing 45% in-kind contribution applies both to single stage and two-stage call. Gael.
Yes. Thank you for replying already, Carolina. Indeed, I replied to that question already in the chat. So I wrote that indeed this 45% contribution is mandatory for both types of calls. But it's just that in two-stage call, the private members and or the contributing partners contributing to the call are already pre-identified in the call topic text. We have a question here from Sigurd. We cannot hear you, I think.
Can you hear me? Anyone, please? Can
yes,
you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Thank you so much. We have a question here from Sigurd, who's asking about I think this is the contribution in terms of the working hours. So how should cost associated to the work hours by employees be connected to the project? How should it be documented? I understand that this is the question of documenting the cost.
Yes, and there was a slide on this just earlier. So you could use the template for the declaration
I don't know.
that needs to be signed every month by the person working and also by the supervisor of that person. So voila, either you use a reliable record system if you have one in place, either you use that template for the declaration. You have the link in the presentation itself.
Thank you, Gal. So here we have another question about single stage call and industry partners. So in single stage calls, industry partners could request funding. Shall we please clearly indicate the difference on financial contribution between the single and two-stage call? So I guess the question is about the difference of the, yeah, Gal, I think you understand.
Yeah. I also replied to this one in the chat already. So in a single stage call, any entity who is established in a member state or in one of the associated countries to Horizon Europe or in one of the low and middle income countries is per se eligible to receiving funding. But then the decision to request funding effectively or not is up a bit to the contributing partner itself, and also something to be discussed within the members of the consortium. Because of course, from the moment the contributing partner requests funding, it will have an impact on its ICOP, since as I explained, ICOP is equal to the costs minus the requested funding. So the more you request funding, the smaller is your ICOP. So it has a direct impact on the 45% eligibility threshold, which needs to be reached collectively. So, and also if a contributing partner is requesting IHI funding, then there is less funding available for the other members of the consortium. So it's really a question of finding a balance internally within the members of the consortium. And as I said, so that's specific for IMI single stage call and two-stage call. It's clearly mentioned that the pre-identified contributing partners are not eligible for receiving funding. So by default, they cannot request funding. So that's why there is this difference between single stage call and two-stage call in terms of requesting IHI funding or not.
Great. I see two questions here that are probably for me. So Dirk is asking, well, I had 1 month, 2 months. I assume this is a question regarding sending the application to become a contributing partner in single stage call. And I'm guessing that this is a question of whether, when should be the application sent to the IHI office for review? Well, if you can send it 2 months ahead, that would be great. Then we have a lot of time. But I would suggest that you just keep it reasonable. For example, the call deadline now for call 5 is the 16th of January, and we have Christmas and New Year's Eve before that. So obviously, if you send us your application on the 22nd of December, it might be a little bit difficult for us to review it until, let's say, the 5th of January. So I would just advise to. The best advice I can give you is whenever you already start thinking about becoming a contributing partner and start putting together your consortium for a single stage call, please start drafting your application and send it as early as you can. So so that you can we can actually review it. Then there's another question from I see Sonia here. What kind of electronic signature is acceptable? And Sonia refers to the EEDAS regulation, which is the European regulation about the electronic signature. Sonia, you got it perfectly right. This is exactly what we ask for. This is exactly the type of electronic signature that is acceptable for us as a European Union body. We accept electronic signatures which are in line with this EEDAS regulation. Okay. Now, we have a few questions here about the recording of the session. Yes, the session is being recorded, and yes, it will be available on the website. Can you provide a PDF of the presentation? I'm looking at my colleague. She says, yes, there will be a PDF of the presentation as well. So don't worry about that. I think tomorrow morning at the latest. Here we have a question about two-stage call. Two-stage call. How can a company decide to become a contributing partner and join the industry consortium before the topics have been published? Since by definition, the topics are not known yet. I think this is a very good question. Indeed, in two-stage calls, the driver of the topic is our private members and the pre-identified industry consortium. Therefore, if you would like to be involved in this process, I suggest you network with our private members and you get involved in their work, and that's how you can be involved. So this is not for us as a program office to decide, obviously, but this is for our industry partners who are the drivers of this two-stage process at this early stage. Now I see a little bit long question. Let me try to read this. In single stage calls, an entity established in a member state association can receive funding, but if a contributing partner requires funding, it will decrease its ICOP.
That's my reply.
That's your reply. Yes.
A bit long.
Thank you so much. Yes, I think that, Gail, you probably answered most of the questions about ICOP here, right? Yes, I can see replies here. Okay, then Panayotis is asking, can you please explain how a contributing partner can be a beneficiary exactly? Can you provide a solid example with specific numbers? I do not know what type of numbers you ask for. I'm sorry, but a contributing partner can, in specific cases, become a beneficiary if they're eligible to become a beneficiary. There is a whole chapter on that. There's a whole chapter on that in our guide for contributing partners. It's the section 2.4. We talk a lot about that, and it's explained there in details. Yes. Now, Leila is asking, should we find a co-applicant partner in advance? Can we apply immediately for our company itself? I'm sorry, but I do not understand this question. This webinar is about contributing partners, so applying to become a contributing partner. There is no co-contributing partners. Each entity applies to become contributing partner by themselves. If Leila, if your question is about something else, then please write it on the chat. Maybe we are able to answer, because I'm afraid I do not understand it. Then we have a question from Akbar. Is the 25% EDC process a new process mandatory for private partners? We do not recall this being part of IMI2 private partners. Again, I'm sorry, I do not understand this question. We have spoken about the 45%. Maybe that's it.
No, it's regarding the 25% indirect cost that is calculated automatically for all beneficiaries signing the grant agreement. It's true that it's not the case for IMI2 project. It's specific to IHI program. Well, I mean, under IMI2, sorry, it's applicable to the beneficiaries that are receiving funding, but not to the private members. And this is a novelty under IHI program. It's now under IHI program also applicable to the private members and contributing partners. So since they have to fulfill the cost eligibility criteria and to comply with the cost calculation methods of the model grant agreement of Horizon Europe, this automatic calculation of 25% indirect costs also applies to them. I hope it clarifies.
Okay, we have a question here from Oleg. What is the difference between participating as a contributing partner and as a private member in single stage calls? So the difference is crucial. These are two completely different categories. Private members cannot be contributing partners. These are completely two different categories of participants. what is the thing that is in common, and perhaps maybe this is what is making it confusing, is that both private members and contributing partners can contribute towards the eligibility criterion of the 45%. But I would suggest to have a look at the first couple of slides of this presentation. Private members are the industry associations that are the private members of IHI, and contributing partners are entities which cannot be members of those associations. Okay, I'm looking at the questions. Yes, I think there was a question from Panayotis that was replied by my colleagues on the chat already. So now we have I think there is also a question from Antoine. CPs can be any legal entities, yes, including academic institutions. Yes, that is correct. They can be academic institutions. So is it expected from academic institutions to participate in CPs by providing ICOP? It is not expected that academic institutions participate in projects as contributing partners. We welcome academic institutions to participate as beneficiaries, but if they would like to provide ICOP, and if they would like to contribute towards the 45%, they indeed might be able to apply to become contributing partners. Now there is a question here. The majority of the 45% contribution is expected to come from the industry partners. Well, generally, yes, that's the idea behind public-private partnership. And here Antoine asks, is there a minimum from the 45% that is supposed to come from the industry partners versus academic partners? No, there is no strict division in terms of how much of the contribution towards the 45% needs to come from the academic partners, who, as I understand what you're saying in this question, want to apply to become contributing partners, and versus academic partners. Now Miriam is asking, what is the main difference with IMI2? Well, in IMI2 we did not have contributing partners. Sorry?
I can do it.
Yes.
If you want. The main difference is with IMI2 in term. Do you hear me? Yeah. So under IMI2, there is no minimum threshold for an audit report, for instance. That's one difference already. So the in-kind, all the in-kind should be certified to count for the matching, while under IHI there is this minimum, there is a threshold for the certification. Also the ICOP under IHI is subject to the rules, the eligibility rules, as I said, of the Model Grant Agreement of Horizon Europe, while under IMI2 not. The tool for reporting the cost is also different. In IMI2 it is the SOFIA tool, while in under IMI2 it is under IHI, sorry, it will be the same tool as any other beneficiary signing the grant agreement, so meaning via the funding and tenders portal. Those are just three key differences, but there are still many others. But those are the main ones.
I think yes, Antoine, your question has already been answered. I think yes, Antoine is saying thank you here. Oh, we have another question from Sigurd. Are there any best practices on estimating days going to be spent on a project as in-kind, or any other estimation spend of time spent after the project ended? Well,
but that's a bit a strange question, I would say, because you're not supposed to have days worked on the project after the end of the project. It's not considered as an eligible contribution, since to for ICOP to be eligible, to be valid, so to say, the cost should be eligible and therefore incurred during the project implementation. So from the start date until the end date of the project. So now, but to reply to the other question, whether we have a best practice to estimate the time spent on the project, I must admit I don't have any, but I would suggest to have a look at the annotated model grant agreement to have concrete examples on how to calculate the personnel costs.
Okay, I see here. Thank you, Christiana, for repeating your question because I wasn't sure which one was still not answered. So Christiana is asking, contributing partners can be legal entities, including academic institutions. Are academic institutions expected to become contributing partners to provide ICOP? Yes, I thought that I already answered that to one. Indeed, well, ICOP can be provided by private members or contributing partners. So if academic institutions do not become contributing partners, they cannot provide ICOP. It's pretty much, again, that's, I think, the
Yes.
easiest way to say it. Yes?
Yes, but no, actually, academics, they are more expected, I would say, to just participate as a beneficiary requesting the full reimbursement of their costs.
Indeed.
Just like SMEs or patient organizations. So, and if they're not, if they're an academic and they're not a private member and also not a contributing partner, they cannot contribute ICOP.
Yes, they cannot contribute in ICOP. And also, I would like to point back to the beginning of my presentation when I talked about the what we expect the contributing partner to bring to the project. It's not only about providing the 45%. What we would like the contributing partner to bring into the project is also the broader strategic relevance and contribution towards the objectives of IHI. So there's this element to that as well. And if you have a look at the slides again, you will see that this is one of the aspects that is assessed by the IHIGU governing board when accepting or rejecting the application, is also the strategic relevance to our goals as a public private partnership. So I hope this is a little bit more clear now. Are we seeing any more questions?
Yeah, I think there's a question. In two-stage calls, could it be possible the industry partner that gives 45% contribution is the same as in a pre-identified partner? In two-stage call, could it be the industry partner?
In two-stage calls, would it be possible that the industry partner gives contribution?
Must, actually.
Yes.
But I think the question earlier, because I think it's a question that was posted already and we haven't had the time to reply yet. I think initially it was, if I'm not mistaken, is can a contributing partner in a single stage call be the same as a contributing partner pre-identified in a two-stage call? I think that was the initial question, if I'm not mistaken. But I would say the answer is yes, there is no...
I mean, in two-stage calls, there is a pre-identified industry consortium that consists of industry members that are coming from our private members. And also this pre-identified industry consortium doesn't have to, may include contributing partners. So that is the specificity of the two-stage call, and that is the different role also of the contributing partners of two-stage calls. I hope it's a little bit more clear now. I know that these are quite difficult aspects. I have another interesting question here from Antoine. Can a contributing partner in a project become a contributing partner for life? No. I think I spoke about this in length. Each application of a contributing partner is project specific, it's topic specific. So again, if let's say you apply to become a contributing partner in call 3, you are accepted for that particular topic and call. If you want to reapply for call 5, you need to reapply to send us a new application letter. I hope this answers. Let's wait another minute in case something else is unclear. Okay. I am just trying to make sure that we replied all the questions. We would not like to leave some questions unanswered. But if this has happened, that we actually left some questions or missed some questions, you can always send us an email. You can always send us an email to the info desk. I think we have 2 minutes left of our time, so let's just have a very quick look at the questions. I think we've done good. I hope we answered all of your questions here. So yes, thank you very much. We are very glad because a lot of people attended this webinar. This was the first webinar about contributing partners. So apologies if we have been a little bit not clear, or if there are still some questions, please send us an email. But we really hope that this has been useful. And well, thank you very much. Thank you, Gael.
You're welcome, Carolina.
Thank you. Many thanks to our colleague Sarah as well, who has been moderating this webinar for us today. Thank you, everyone, and have a very good afternoon. Bye-bye.